Night 3. I sat in the room, eyes fixed on every floorboard, every bulb, every shadowed corner. The little house had become a chessboard of survival. One wrong move, and I was dead. I'd memorized every rule, recited them like holy scripture. Don't go outside after 7 p.m. Don't look into the well. Don't open the door after 9. Don't let all the lights go out. Don't drink after 10. But the more I tried to hold on to them, the more I felt like they were changing. 9:17 p.m., a strange sound came from the bathroom. Drip, drip. I grabbed the oil lamp and moved slowly, hands shaking, heart pounding. The bathroom door was ajar. I nudged it open. The faucet was running. I was sure I'd turned it off this morning. Clear water, cold, odorless, seemingly harmless. I reached to shut it. That's when I saw something inside the spout. A finger, pale, swollen, rising through the stream. The nail dark and cracked. The flesh soft like rotting meat. Then another finger. Then a hand. Crawling out of the pipe. I bolted out, slammed the door shut. My oil lamp clanged against the wall. The flame flickered, nearly died. I collapsed onto the living room floor, gasping for breath, trying to regain control. There had to be a rule about the water. I yanked out the old sheet of paper. Under the flickering light, the familiar words stared back. Tap water is only safe to use from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. After this time, the water may have a strange color or smell. Do not touch or drink it. I checked the clock. 9:17 p.m. I had touched it, even if just briefly. I backed away from the bathroom and felt a burning itch in my palm. I raised my hand, black spots, like mold, blooming slowly beneath the skin, spreading. I grabbed a towel and scrubbed furiously. It didn't come off. It was inside me. Then, I heard breathing. Behind me, I spun around. No one. But the rocking chair on the front porch was swaying. I hadn't been outside. There was no wind. No one should have been sitting there. Yet it moved. The front window was cracked open. I approached it, lamp in hand, and peered out. No one. But on the sandy ground just beyond the porch, footprints. Small, child-sized, 5 or 6 pairs, all pointed toward the house. I staggered back. The oil lamp's light dimmed. I checked. Low on fuel. I ran to the supply cabinet. Just as I grabbed a refill bottle, footsteps. On the roof, again, repeating, slow, measured, like a ritual, as if the house had become an altar, and I was the offering. I lit another lamp, ran to the window. Then I saw it. The cup of water I had said earlier, knocked over, empty. I hadn't placed a new one yet. Rule 8, I had forgotten. Each night before bed, leave a cup of water on the table near the window and say, for the thirsty spirits. If it's empty by morning, do not ask why. I'd forgotten. I forgot. I sprinted to the kitchen, poured a fresh glass, rushed back to the window. But as I reached the table, a face was pressed against the glass. I screamed. Dropped the cup. No shatter. No one there. Just a faint fog of breath on the pane. And in the middle of that fog, a smile. I collapsed to the floor, hands clutching my head. The rules, I knew them. I followed them. But they're changing. They're toying with me, twisting the boundaries. The rules aren't there to protect me anymore. They're meant to keep me inside. I'm not living in a desert lodging house anymore. I'm living inside the mouth of something ancient, and it's slowly closing. I tried to remember every rule, tried to follow each word, each detail. But now, I'm starting to understand something. They weren't survival rules. They were rituals, nightly rites to keep the door closed, and I left it open. The next morning, I woke up on the floor. No idea when I'd passed out, no memory of the night. On the wall, a message scrawled in something dark. It wasn't blood, but it smelled like rust and rot. I read it. Night 4, black. No light, no sound, no movement. It wasn't my handwriting, not Adelaide's either. It looked like it had been carved with claws. I burst outside into the morning sun. I needed air. I needed to run. I jumped into the truck, started the engine, floored it down the dirt road, the same road I came in on. Dust storm behind me, the sun blazing like judgment overhead. Didn't matter. Just get out. Just get out of Raven's Hollow. 20 minutes in, the truck's compass began spinning wildly. The dashboard clock, glitching, the minute hand twitching, the hour hand ticking backward. I slowed down. Something felt off. The scenery started repeating. A cracked boulder shaped like lightning, a headless cactus stump, a rusted metal sign, danger, unstable zone. I'd seen them 3 times. I was looping. I slammed the brakes, got out. The back tire's gone. Not flat, not popped, just gone. Both of them. Only the axles left, bare and exposed. as if someone had removed them while I was still driving. I looked around. Nothing. Just wind and a sound rising from the ground beneath my feet. Not rocks, not machinery, laughter. I left the truck, walked back under the midday sun. Each step burned, each grain of sand like needles through my soles. Eventually, the house appeared on the horizon, but something was wrong. The roof had started sagging inward like it was being sucked down. The wooden walls were splitting apart, as if something was pushing from inside. The front door stood ajar, not blown open. Opened. I stepped inside. The air was freezing. No lights worked. Oil lamps, shattered. Every bulb flickering, then dead. Darkness waited like a starving animal. I sat in the living room, didn't move, didn't speak, just breathed. Then I heard her, not at the door, not outside, inside my head. Adelaide, it's time, Mr. Montgomery. Night 4 is the night of choice. Stay and finish, or leave with nothing. No life, no memory, no soul. I started crying. I didn't even know why. Maybe I'd been crying every night and just didn't realize it. I looked at the mirror. It no longer reflected me. It showed another room. Darker, colder, and inside, a man who looked exactly like me, sitting motionless, smiling, waiting. I had opened the door, and now I had to step through, or be pulled in. I still sat there, in front of the mirror, but it no longer reflected me. Only a different room, darker, colder, wrong. Inside the mirror, I was smiling. A smile that never reached the eyes. A smile of something that knew it had already won. I reached toward the mirror. It wasn't glass anymore, not solid, but something damp, soft, warm. It pulsed, it breathed, and I realized I was touching the flesh of something enormous, a living being, one that had swallowed the house, swallowed Raven's Hollow, swallowed me. Adelaide's voice returned, this time from behind me. Step through, Sawyer. There are no more rules. You've done enough to make it here. Now only 2 choices remain, merge or be torn apart. I turned around. No one there. Only the front door, wide open. Outside, there was no desert, no sand, no sky, no sun, only a black field, crowded with silent effigies standing shoulder to shoulder, all of them facing me. I screamed, I want out! I don't belong here. Laughter answered me. Not from a person, not from a creature, but from an ancient awareness older than language. Everyone thinks they're outsiders until they remember they've been here before. And then, I began to remember, not real memories, but memories that had been buried, fragmented, scrambled. I remembered the well, remembered looking into it, as a child, remembered the hand that reached from the faucet, calling my name before I even knew how to speak. I remembered living here. Before someone shut me away, before the rules were written to make me forget, I reached for the rule sheet, gone. Not in my pocket, not on the table, vanished. Only one line remained, scrawled in blood across the wall. Final rule. When you know who you are, choose. In the mirror, I stood up. He looked like me, spoke like me, but his eyes were pure black. He reached out, not inviting, commanding. I stepped forward. One step, then another, each one lighter than the last. Because now, I understood. No one comes to Raven's Hollow. They're only called back. And I'd been called back. Now I would become the next rule. I don't remember exactly how I stepped through that mirror. All I know is, when I opened my eyes, everything had changed. No more wooden house, no more stone well, no desert, no sky. Only a fog-drenched void, thick and gray, and whispers swirling from every direction, like wind hissing through the teeth of the dead. I stood on a surface as smooth as stone, but soft like flesh. Beneath my feet were strange symbols, carved deep. They moved, they lived, shifting shape with the rhythm of my heartbeat. In front of me, I still stood there, the being that had stared back through the mirror night after night. He wasn't smiling anymore, didn't move forward, just waited. I stepped closer. Each step made the ground beneath me tremble slightly, not from me, but from something far bigger stirring below. At arm's length, I asked, "What are you?" His voice was mine, but hollow, echoing as if from the mouth of a deep cavern. I'm the part that was thrown away, all the sealed memories, the first one to reach Raven's Hollow and never leave. I am your true self, Sawyer. You're just the puppet walking the rules, so you wouldn't remember you were once part of them. I stepped back. My heartbeat pounded like a drum in a forgotten temple. Breathing grew hard. The air here was made of ash and curses. I tried to scream, "I'm not you," but nothing came out. My mouth opened. No sound, no voice, just pure, absolute silence, a silence that devoured noise. He stepped forward, Now every detail matched me, except for the eyes. No whites, no pupils, just two sunken hollows burning with the light of the ancient well. He raised his hand toward me. Take it, or be trapped between layers of existence, waking up night after night, not knowing who you are. I looked at my hand. It was fading, slowly losing shape, as if I was no longer real. Not human, just a memory unraveling in this place. In that moment I understood, if I didn't merge with him, I would be shredded into 1,000 selves, each holding a fragment of memory, a sliver of thought, wandering forever in the cracks between rules and reality. I reached out, and when our fingers touched, my life turned inside out. I saw. When I was 6, I came to Raven's Hollow. I looked into the well, broke the first rule, and I was taken. Everything after, every memory was a false skin, a new persona, planted. Sent out into the world to one day return. I was never chosen to be here. I was called back to reunite with what was left behind, and now I am whole. I opened my eyes. This time, they were my real eyes. Not in a dream, not behind the mirror, not inside the layered panic of fractured realities. I was lying on the old wooden floor of Raven's Hollow, the room dim, the oil lamp long extinguished, the air thick with the scent of damp soil, rusted iron, and the blood long dried into its cracks. I sat up. No more trembling, no more fear. I remembered everything. I remembered the first time I looked into the well, as a child. I remembered the voice. I remembered falling into the earth. Not a death, not an accident, a ritual. I had once been part of the Raven's Hollow system, a keeper, a living rule. Then I was pushed out, into the world, to rebuild my shell, to forget, so that upon returning, I would have to choose, remember or be consumed. I stepped out of the house. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the pale blue-gray light on the horizon meant the world was restructuring itself. No more familiar desert, no truck, no trees, no wind, only the figures. They stood scattered across the fog. No eyes, no mouths, no hands, just silhouettes shaped from shadow, all facing me. They didn't move. But I knew they were the violators, the ones who entered without the calling, the ones who tried to flee. I was no longer one of them. I was the test, the one who holds the rules, the caretaker of Raven's Hollow. I walked toward the well behind the house. The wooden cover was gone, the mouth wide open, black like a monster's throat. I leaned in, no fear, no hesitation, no step back, just a whisper. I've returned. A voice answered, one that sounded like mine, but older, deeper, as if it echoed from the blood of ancestors. Good, now, write the rules again. I turned back inside, found the old paper where the rules used to be. It was blank, waiting for me to write them anew, by hand, for the next. The pen touched the page, and I began. Rule 1. Do not enter Raven's Hollow unless you've been called. I sat in the old wooden house. On the table lay a blank sheet of paper. Beside it, a black ink brush. The ink, I wasn't sure where it came from. Could have been ink, could have been something else. I wrote the first line, Rule 1, do not enter Raven's Hollow unless you've been called. As the final letter dried, the house gave a faint tremble, as if the land itself nodded in approval. I continued, Rule 2, if you receive a survey invitation, arrive alone, bring enough supplies for 3 days, no more. Rule 3, upon arrival, do not ask about those who came before. I wrote like a sleepwalker, no thinking. Each sentence flowed through me, like it was being whispered up from the well, from the dark, from the part of me I had just merged back into. With every rule I penned, one shadow figure outside the window disappeared, dissolving into the sand, merging with the wind, as if I were releasing them by taking their place as the gatekeeper. When I reached Rule 13, my hand slowed. It was the hardest line. Rule 13, if you encounter someone who looks exactly like you, do not resist. That is the real you. I stopped, looked into the mirror. No reflection, because I now sat in the seat of my own reflection. The one behind the mirror was gone. I had taken his place. That night, I lit a small fire in the hearth, sat at the desk. Outside, the wind began to howl. But it wasn't wind, it was whispers. They came closer with each rule I wrote, no longer menacing, no longer lurking. They were waiting. I wrote the final line. Final rule, if you're reading this line, the ritual has begun. Do not try to remember. Do not try to leave. There is only one path. Follow it to the end. The moment I set the pen down, knocking echoed through the door. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. I stood. No fear. I had once been the one outside that door. standing in the desert, trembling, knocking on rotting wood, hoping someone inside would show mercy. Now I was the one within. I stepped out onto the porch. The moonlight above was tinged purple, the ground below blanketed in mist. A man stood there, hair unkempt, eyes wide with confusion, holding a suitcase, still wearing the reflective vest of a geological surveyor. He looked at me. "Is this the lodge at Raven's Hollow?" I smiled, nodded slowly. "Yes, I've been expecting you." I handed him the sheet. The new rules. The loop had begun again, once more, and I was the one writing the game this time. My name is Ethan Cross, age 34, geological engineer. I was offered a short-term contract by a company called Clearwater Energy. They asked me to travel to Raven's Hollow to survey a previously abandoned area. The pay was unusually high. All expenses covered, travel, lodging, meals. Only one condition: come alone. I didn't think twice. I've worked in worse places before: the Colorado Rockies during avalanche season, a canyon in Nevada where wolves prowl at night, and an old structure near the Mexican border where gunshots would sometimes echo through the dark. Harsh conditions didn't bother me, as long as the check cleared. I arrived late in the afternoon. The desert stretched endlessly, sky cloudless, no insects, no birdsong, only a silence so heavy it pressed against my lungs. The house appeared just beyond a bend in the road, an old wooden cabin with a sun-faded red roof, standing alone in a sea of scorched sand. On the porch sat a man. He looked to be in his 40s, eyes sunken, skin pale, like someone who hadn't seen daylight in years. He stood when I approached and spoke only one sentence: "I've been waiting for you." Then he handed me a sheet of yellowed paper. I unfolded it. It read, "Rules for survival at Raven's Hollow. Do not come unless you've been called. If you arrive, do not turn back before the third night. Each night, place a glass of water on the table near the window and say, 'For the thirsty souls.' Never look into the mirror after 3 a.m. Never open the door if the knocking comes without words. If you see someone who looks exactly like you, do not run. Do not trust the light, even during the day." By reading this line, the ritual has begun. There is no turning back. Do not try to remember. I looked up at him. "What is this? Some kind of prank to scare new tenants?" He didn't answer. He simply turned and walked inside. His footsteps made no sound. I followed. The house felt colder than I expected, even though the desert sun still blazed outside. The furnishings were sparse: a small wooden table, a single chair, a narrow bed, and a tall mirror placed in the corner of the room. I dropped my bags, opened my suitcase, checked my phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, no data, no big deal. I was used to dead zones. I glanced back at the paper, chuckled under my breath. For the thirsty souls, who comes up with this creepy nonsense? I set the paper down, stepped outside for some air. The man was gone. No car, no footsteps in the sand, no sign that he had ever been there. Only one thing had appeared since: a kerosene lamp, placed neatly by the front door, still lit. The first night, I stayed up late, sitting at the table reading over the survey documents the company sent me. There wasn't much: a few old satellite images, some vague notes about the potential of an oil vein beneath the desert, no supervisor listed, no contact person, no clear end date for the contract. Only one thing was certain: do not leave within the first 3 days. Near midnight, I started feeling uneasy. Not because of the heat, the house was cool even without AC. Not because of noise, this place was completely silent, but because I felt like I was being watched. I turned around, no one there, just the tall mirror in the corner reflecting the dim, flickering light. It showed me, sitting in the chair, not moving. I looked closer. No, that wasn't me. I raised my hand. The reflection didn't. I tilted my head. The figure in the mirror stayed still, eyes wide, smiling. I shot up from my seat, grabbed the oil lamp, stepped closer. The mirror looked normal again. Just me. No movement, no smile. I shook my head and cursed under my breath. Spending too much time alone, messing with my brain. On the table, I suddenly remembered a line from the rules sheet. Each night, place a glass of water on the table near the window and say, "For the thirsty souls." I didn't believe in ghost stories or rituals, but for some reason, my hands poured the water, set the glass on the table, and whispered, "For the thirsty souls." 1:38 a.m. I lay on the bed, kept the lamp burning. I wasn't stupid enough to sleep in darkness in a place like this. I was dozing off, on the edge of sleep when knock, knock, knock. I sat bolt upright, the oil lamp still burned. I walked softly to the front door. Knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, not loud, no voice. I peeked through the curtain. No one. Only darkness, thick, like something was clinging to the ground. I remembered another rule. Never open the door if the knocking comes without words. I stepped back, slow, silent, sat back down, watched the door. The knocking didn't return, but I heard something, slithering along the outer wall. Not footsteps, not human. It was a presence, something sniffing. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, sat motionless, clutching the lamp like a lifeline. At sunrise, I glanced toward the table by the window. The glass was empty. I walked over, looked closer. On the table were tiny fingerprints, very small, like a child's, left behind in a faint grayish slime. My throat tightened, as if someone had drunk the water instead of me, or had been waiting for me to forget. Day 2. I didn't eat breakfast, didn't feel hungry, and there wasn't much to eat anyway, just some dry rations. I spent the entire morning tearing through the house. Looking for what? I wasn't sure. A hidden camera? A speaker playing creepy sounds? Some sign this was all part of an elaborate setup? But there was nothing. Just an old, crumbling house, soaked in the smell of rotting wood and damp memories. By noon, I found a trapdoor, tucked beneath a faded rug in the bedroom. No lock, no hinges, just a wooden lid and a small iron ring. I hesitated, thought back to the rule sheet. There was no rule against opening the basement, no rule at all, but also nothing that said it was safe. I lifted the lid. Below was a narrow tunnel, low and dark. No stairs, just a sloping shaft leading into a pitch-black void. I didn't go down, just stood there, staring. And then I heard my voice, my own voice, calling up from the darkness. Ethan, Ethan Cross. That voice, it was mine, but older, tired, worn thin by too many lives. I slammed the trapdoor shut, stumbled back, breathing hard. No way. No one else could be here. I only just arrived yesterday. But deep down, I knew. I wasn't the first to carry this name. Not the first to stand in this house. Not the first to hold those rules in hand. That afternoon, I discovered an old photo hidden behind the mirror frame. The edges were torn. The surface yellowed, buried under a layer of dust. I brushed it off. In the photo, a man, wearing a field jacket, thick beard, eyes set deep. He stood in front of this very cabin, and behind him, the same stone well. Below the photo, scribbled in faded ink, Sawyer Montgomery Field Surveyor, Clearwater Energy, May, year unknown. Same company, same job, same place. And his face looked like mine, exactly like mine, as if it was me. But that's impossible. It can't be. I pulled out my voice recorder, the one I used for logging work notes. Rewound to the entries I recorded yesterday. There was nothing, just static, heavy breathing. No words, no log, just fragments of distorted sound. And at the end of the tape, my own voice whispering, "Don't trust daylight. The mirror no longer reflects. Ethan, you're not new here. You're the closest surviving copy." I hurled the recorder across the room. My back turned ice cold, not from wind, not from the air, but because I was starting to remember the things I'd been forced to forget. And if I remembered everything, I wouldn't be me anymore. The third night, I no longer remember who I truly am. Not sure if my name is really Ethan Cross or just a placeholder, a name given to fill the gap left by the one before me. I didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't write a report. I just sat, staring at the mirror. At 2:57 a.m., I saw him. The man in the photo, Sawyer Montgomery, or maybe me. He stood inside the mirror, silent, still, holding a black fountain pen. Before him, a sheet of paper with the first line written, "Rule 1, do not come unless you are called." I looked at him. He looked at me. No anger, no fear, just acceptance. The oil lamp began to flicker. A cold draft slipped through the seams, though every door and window was shut. The air thickened. Time stopped. The house froze. And then, I heard a voice I knew. "You remember now, don't you, Ethan?" I turned. No one there, just my own voice. But it didn't come from my mouth. It came from the house, from the well, from the walls, from the floor beneath my feet. I looked down at the old rule sheet. It had changed. No longer a dense list of warnings and instructions, just one single line. If you understand, write the rules again. I stepped to the desk, sat down, picked up the pen, and wrote, "Rule 1, when you arrive, remember you've been here before. Rule 2, everything you fear is still you." Rule 3. By the time you read this, it's already too late to turn back. I set the pen down. Knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks. Slow, heavy, certain. I didn't need to look. I knew. The next one had arrived. I stood up, opened the door. A young woman stood outside. Black hair, glasses, suitcase in one hand, an unopened envelope in the other. She looked at me, confused. Hi, sorry, is this Raven's Hollow Lodge? I was sent by the company too? I smiled and nodded. The loop begins again. Inside the house, on the wooden desk, a fresh sheet of paper awaited. Rules for surviving Raven's Hollow.